IMAX has smashed records with its second quarter earnings. We'll be taking a look at some of its earnings over the years as reported in the Hollywood Reporter. And also, if you've been going to the cinemas, cinema earnings has not been the way it used to be. And Price Waterhouse Cooper has brought some findings comparing the post-pandemic earnings to the pre-pandemic earnings, and also why cinema earnings will be leveling up in 2030. And last but not the least, Nigeria's best and Africa's finest CJ Obasi has shot some promotional videos for the Locarno Film Festival. We'll be delving into these stories and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions both from the African front and the international scene. And thank you so much for joining me for this very episode. So, we'll be delving into the very first story. And for those who attend cinema a lot and those who watch films, the upcoming films, I'm sure you're always looking out for the very best of screens to watch your films on in the cinema. And one of the best, possibly, and maybe arguably the best cinema screens ever to grace the world is that of IMAX, which sometimes the size of it is about 19 meters high and 22 meters wide. That is how powerful or big of a screen that is. And over the years, they've been um, developing or been building some centers for themselves, and now they are in a number of countries all over the world, and that has become the premium brand to see your films. Films like Sinners, films like F1, and Mission Impossible were all shot with IMAX cameras and were shown in a number of the IMAX screens all over the world. Even the Odyssey, as Christopher Nolan's Odyssey, which is one of the most anticipated movies, if not the most anticipated film ever, is was also shot on or is being shot on IMAX, and already a year out, and they've started selling tickets for those IMAX screens. However, there's been some reports as to some earnings, and then it's pointed to a very positive report concerning the fact that in the second quarter of 2025, IMAX has netted a net income of $12 million. Let's take a look at this article and what it has to say concerning the earnings. And so, in the Hollywood Reporter, IMAX quarterly revenue and profits rise amid Hollywood's theatrical comeback. And Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, Sinners, and F1, the movie, played on its big screens and were all shot with IMAX cameras. And this is written by Ethan Vlesin. And let's take a look at this article. So, Hollywood's box office recovery continues to underpin IMAX as it rides the premium gold rush, judging by the second quarter financial results from the film technologies company released on Thursday. IMAX had revenue of $91.7 million in the latest quarter, up 3% from $89 million in the year ago period, while net income rose 139% to $12 million compared to a year earlier $5.1 million. The adjusted earnings per share hit 26 cents against a year earlier 18 cents. The Q2 quarter in 2024 included a sale of the IMAX original documentary, The Blue Angels. IMAX succeeded at the box office during the latest quarter with movies like the F1 the movie, Ryan Coogler's Sinners, and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning on its screens. All three tentpoles were shot using IMAX cameras with an eye to leveraging the company's big screen experience. IMAX delivered outstanding financial results in the second quarter as the key drivers of our business worked in concert with strong network growth worldwide, record box office in North America, and impressive market share gains driven by more releases filmed with our technology than ever. IMAX CEO Rich Gelfond said in a statement ahead of an analyst call to discuss his latest financial results. On a morning analyst call, Gelfond focused on IMAX riding the premium gold rush at the local multiplex by continuing to roll out Hollywood movies shot with IMAX cameras. Coming into the second quarter, IMAX had a run of 8 consecutive titles branded in marketing as filmed for IMAX releases. More filmmakers are wielding our technology to create films designed to be experienced on our screens. Studios are competing more fiercely than ever to secure IMAX release windows and make IMAX a centerpiece of their marketing campaigns to eventicize their films, he argued. Gelfond told analysts into the future, not all IMAX movies on its screens will have been shot using his company's cameras, even if the Hollywood studios increasingly compete for giant screen slots. It's sometimes we are it's something we are going to lean into for the right content, but we won't make it ubiquitous. Pardon me if I'm not getting the word right, he said. The IMAX release slate includes other movies filmed with proprietary cameras like Tron Ares and Mortal Kombat 2. Amazon is set to release Ryan Gosling's Project Hail Mary in 2026, which has used IMAX cameras in its production. And in China, Guanhu and Fei Jin Xian's Dongji Rescue, another film for IMAX release, hits theaters on August 22nd. But with success for IMAX and premium film releases has come competitive challenges. A recent media report pointed to major US theater chains in early discussions about launching a joint premium large format brand to compete against IMAX, which Gelfond dismissed on a morning call. He said IMAX had indexed to a 15% market share for premium film releases on the opening weekend so far in 2025. That's a real aha moment for exhibitors who haven't been in the IMAX business before, and they are kind of scurrying to come up with a strategy. A lot of people have tried to create competitors to IMAX over the years, but the fact is our brand and relationships with filmmakers are unmatched, and our technology is superior, and audiences know it, Gelfond said. Cinemark, Regal, and Marcos Theatres, each with their own in-hour premium format brands, were mentioned in the recent Bloomberg report. But Gelfond poured water on that speculation. Two of the three exhibitors mentioned in the story told us that they are not part of any discussions, he said. If you miss the boat, it's getting a little late, and I think these are pathetic attempts to take a stand that is unlikely to work, Gelfond added. At the same time, the Bloomberg report exposed underlying tension between exhibitors and IMAX over concerns the marketing by US studios for tentpole releases is focused on filmed by IMAX releases. Gelfond said exhibitors not fully in the IMAX arena had been flashed out by the recent media attention. Obviously, if you were losing market share and losing money, you would be disgruntled. So if I were them, I would get into the IMAX business rather than make up stories to try and convince investors they are going to compete with IMAX, he insisted. Asked about possibly boosting ticket prices for some premium tentpole releases, Gelfond discounted that scenario too. It's a dangerous game to get into with different pricing for different movies. You send signals that audiences will get that studios don't want to give, he told analysts. During the latest quarter, IMAX posted its highest grossing quarter ever at the North American box office at $143 million. The global box office during the second quarter came to $281 million, up 41% from the year earlier performance. IMAX expects to deliver a record $1.2 billion in global box office in 2025. So let's take a look at some of the earnings snapshots that they have on the screen. So there in your first, bar charts, you have the revenue. That's from the Q1 2023 to Q2 2025. And there to your right on the screen is the net income. So let's just focus on the second quarter of 2025 as compared to the second quarter of 2024. And for the second quarter of 2024, you have $89 million as the revenue that came in through screenings on the IMAX screens. And they had a net income of $3.6 million. That is money going alone to the IMAX cinemas. And if you check the Q2 2025, they made a total revenue of $91.7 million, and IMAX had the revenue, the net income of $12.2 million. So meaning it's really been profitable for them, and it looks really good for the IMAX. But comparatively, it's been dwindling. Some of the revenue have not performed well, but at least they are sort of bouncing back compared to the Q3 earnings of 2024, where they had, I think, the highest, that is $13.3 million in terms of net income for IMAX alone. So yeah, I mean, regardless, IMAX is sort of becoming the new premium screen to go to if you want to watch the best or have the best theatrical experience in the cinema watching a movie. And as it stands now, a lot of filmmakers or directors are preferring shot for IMAX screens because of the quality that it offers in the cinema experience. You may not perhaps feel any difference when you're watching on a smaller screen, but in the big cinema halls, definitely you could tell from the crisp nature of the resolutions and a lot more. So good for IMAX for publishing or for netting the $12.2 million, which is a very good profitable margin that they have had compared to other quarters. And regardless, unless perhaps there is a premium screen that would top IMAX, a lot of filmmakers would prefer IMAX if they can afford to, if their budget can accommodate that into their production. And I think, in as much as the other cinema chains may not like how some filmmakers are gearing towards what IMAX is doing, perhaps it's about time that some of them may find ways of collaborating with IMAX and reserve some of their multiplexes for IMAX screens so that they make some money off it. Granted, some of the monies will be going to IMAX, obviously, but then it would then not drive away some of their audiences or their patrons to seek for IMAX screens to watch some of the films. A lot of the films now, for those I have never been to an IMAX cinema because we don't even have one in our country. I think the closest African country that has one is Nigeria, which is I think in Lekki, Lekki or so. But I think apart from there is also Angola that has, I think Angola has one IMAX screen. I think Angola, Egypt, I think South Africa also has an IMAX screen. So it's not as widespread, even in America, it's not as widespread as possible. And I know China also has a number of IMAX screens as well. But I think if whatever they are offering is good for cinema as a whole, I think cinema chains should jump on the bandwagon and convert some of their multiplexes for that purposes. And it amazed me to discover that IMAX originally was not actually meant for the cinemas. I think it started out in the 1968 thereabout and was mainly for educational purposes, so that in museums and certain places, the IMAX screens were fitted to help tell stories because it became so immersive that led a lot of people to go to patronize some of these services to learn about the documentaries that the subjects in the documentaries that were displayed on the screens in these places. So it became something for educational stuff till Disney brought in their Fantasia 2000 animated film, which was released in IMAX, and from then on, that is in 1999, and from then on it became something regular, that after Disney kept on showing a number of his films on the IMAX cinemas, then it brought in other major studios to also participate in the fanfare of experiencing their screens in the large screen formats that IMAX provided. So ever since then, IMAX also went on to develop their technology to fit well for the audiovisual market, that is the film market. Because previously it was just meant for short documentary, very short documentaries, and now it's been made possible to accommodate what the film industry has to offer. So I think IMAX are doing good work, and I'm glad they are reporting these earnings so that lots and lots of more people can get the opportunity to experience this on the biggest screen possible. And I think it's good for the industry as a whole. And though ticket pricing may vary, I don't know much about that, but it may vary differently compared to the standardized cinemas, and therefore may be uh, maybe a barrier for a lot more people to go and watch. But I think once in someone's lifetime, especially if you're a cinephile and like going to the cinemas a lot, definitely I'm sure you should give it a try and watch it. If I have some in this country, or if I happen to travel to a place where there is IMAX and a favorite of movie of mine is going to be showing, I'll definitely take the chance and go and watch it on the IMAX screen. So there you have it. It is quite an interesting development for IMAX, and I'm happy that they have recorded such wonderful earnings. And this sums up my story for my first story for this particular episode. Let me know what you think about this earnings reported for the IMAX screen, and what you think about, if you've ever had opportunity to actually view a movie on any of the IMAX screens. Can you let me know how you feel? Let the audience know how it feels like to experience, watching a movie on an IMAX screen of that format. So moving on from the success being earned by IMAX, now we go into another territory where, unfortunately, in the cinema box office earnings generally, it has dipped over the years. Pre-pandemic, the box office was bigger than as is reported now, and this has been published in the Hollywood Reporter again, and it reads that box office grosses won't return to pre-COVID levels even by 2029, new reports forecasts. The accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers now suggests in its closely watched annual reports that 2030 may be the year global box office revenues return to pre-pandemic levels. It's quite a lengthy article, but I think I should read it for you to get, a proper overview as to what they are talking about. And this is written by George Cesarli. I hope I got the name right. Pardon me. So US and global box office and total cinema revenue will not reach pre-COVID-19 pandemic levels by 2029, according to accounting firm PwC's annual closely watched media and entertainment outlook report released late on July 23rd. In the US, pre-pandemic total cinema revenue is not forecast to be reached by 2029, despite a compound annual growth rate of 3.9%. PwC had recorded nearly $11.7 billion in US total cinema revenue in the pre-pandemic year 2019, after $11.8 billion in 2018. The firm projects the figure to rise from $8.9 billion in 2024 and $9.6 billion in 2025 to $10.1 billion in 2026, $10.3 billion in 2027, $10.6 billion in 2028, and $10.8 billion in 2029. Asked by the Hollywood Reporter about how pre-COVID box office levels are not expected to be reached by 2029, But Spiegel, PwC global entertainment and media leader, says unfortunately this full recovery is unlikely within the forecast period. However, we project that by the end of 2029, the industry will be on the brink of full rebound. In other words, 2030 may be the year global box office revenues return to pre pandemic levels. And so, there's a chart of how the box office has performed since 2019. And in 2020, that's the lowest box office return ever, just a little above $4 billion because there was the COVID, restrictions, and therefore people couldn't go to the cinemas as they want. And I mean, I think in the very first 3 months or so, and then Christopher Nolan, if you remember, Christopher Nolan pushed forward his films into the cinemas. That is if I'm not mistaken, is it Tenet? Honestly, I'm a little fuzzy as to the movie he released within the pandemic era, but I think it should be Tenet, which he released, was the first to have been released in the cinemas, even though the COVID restrictions had just been lifted. So that brought in a lot of people to go back to the cinemas to get that done. But so that records the lowest ever. And as it stands now, it looks like 2022 had a very big surge, was still relatively low compared to 2019's 10 point something billion dollars. But so far in 2025, it seems like we are recovering gradually with $8.7 billion. And then it's been projected that it's going to keep rising till 2030 when we would actually have a full rebound to 2019's performance. So it is quite interesting. It's quite a lengthy article. I don't know whether I can. Okay, let me just read through to this and then we'll call it a wrap for the article reading and then just have a little discussion before we proceed. So pre-COVID US box office in 2018 amounted to 10.8 billion. Okay, let me skip this. I think I've done just a basic analysis of that already. Yeah, so yeah, let me just read this article. So, total US cinema revenue in 2024 fell to $8.9 billion from 9.1 billion in 2023. But the drop was anticipated and not as steep as had original been feared, highlighted the PwC report. Yet it hit the bottom line of studios as well. The Writers Guild of America and Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists strikes of late 2023 had slowed down production, and there were fewer tentpole titles that would normally have been anticipated. So, yeah, there were a lot of factors that led into the box office not performing the way it should. Just as the article has already said, from even the strike of the right WGA and the SAG and AFTRA all led to a little bit dip into the box office returns. But there's a lot more that speaks to this. If you read the entire article, it brings in a lot of reasons why the box office are not performing as it should. Aside the pandemic that set in 2020, there are also other factors that involves that also speaks to that. You could even take the issue of some of the movies not being well received by audiences, and definitely it will lead to audiences not going to the cinema as they should. So if you watch a number of the DC movies and even some of the later Marvel movies, they didn't perform well because story-wise, a lot of the audiences were not receptive to it, and I think even critics alike also agreed to same. So that also contributed to that. But on the larger note, it looks like the pandemic really has taken an effect to it. And as it stands now, the pandemic is not complete. The COVID-19, pardon me to say, is still lingering on. So people who were worse affected by pandemic would perhaps never return to the cinemas, and even if they return, it may be with a lot of skepticism whether it's a safe space to be in, considering that the fact that the flu or the virus and its variant still lingers on in the world. So it is quite a challenge. But then one of the things that the report pointed out to was the fact that A number of these blockbusters from F1, even the Superman reboot, Mission Impossible, and a lot should hold the force and make 2025 a very robust year in terms of the box office return. And let me read one thing he said about global as well. Let me see if I can bring that up because it did speak. Most of the report here was referring to the American box office. Let me see if I can bring up he said they said something about the global box office as well, and I think it is fair that I also bring that up. Unfortunately, I'm not getting. So I think I've discovered where it is. Yeah, so let me just bring this up. So for the global box office, so yeah, if you check this graph, it speaks about the global box office and where in 2020 it's at 10, is it 10 billion or 10 trillion? Yeah, 10 billion, sorry, pardon me. And so it dropped the lowest to 10.5 billion globally. And then now at 2029, it's expected, in 2029, it's expected to rise to $37.6 billion as compared to what's it called 2019's 39.4 billion dollars. So there will be a slight difference in the, I think, $200 million difference, and that is if the projections work according to how it should. But in 2025 now, the total global box office is estimated to end at $33.5 billion, and hopefully if it does well, you never know, there could be other factors that could also make it work even better. That is depending on how well those IP franchises perform. But so far, it's looking good. So let's read this briefly. It says for the global box office, PwC forecasts the 2024 figure of $29.7 billion to grow to $33.5 billion this year. It then predicts continued growth to $37.7 billion by the end of the Outlook report period in 2029, compared with 39.4 billion in 2019. So, pardon me. So it's actually not still going to perform at the $39.4 billion mark. Is still going to dip by $2 billion. But hopefully, if it continues on this very trajectory, it means that by 2030, it should even be possible to hit $40 billion and more. So it's important to remember that industry revenues are ultimately driven by price times volume. Price times volume. In this case, while ticket prices are rising, admissions or volume are not expected to return to pre-pandemic levels, Spiegel says. Instead, the growth in global box office revenue is being fueled by higher ticket prices. These ticket price increases are driven by several factors, including enhanced infrastructure and facilities, technological advancement, and rising content costs. So it looks like still the numbers that are expected to return to cinemas are not what it is. If you actually read the article further, it publishes how much the numbers has dipped over the years. Even in North America alone, you have it dipping from slightly above $1 billion in an annual cinema attending year to somewhere between, fluctuating between 700 to 800 million attendance. So yeah, so now it seems that what is really helping the box office now, particularly in the North American market, has to do with the rising ticket prices, and that is what is helping sustain the global box office. I mean, the North American box office numbers compared to the volumes of people who actually attend the cinemas. So it will be interesting to see if globally the ticket prices may help, because in other places and regions, if you hike up the ticket prices, you are alienating a lot of the cinema going audience who cannot afford to pay premium tickets to attend cinema. So what will help it is actually having the ticket prices being very affordable so that you can have volumes trooping into the cinemas to watch them. So it will be quite interesting to know as time goes on. And the fact that the cinema and or perhaps the ticket pricing may be influenced by the technological advancements of the cinema halls and sitting comfortable sitting settings may definitely cause the prices to go up. But then, I mean, let's see what happens over the years, how things pan out, and a lot more. And the pandemic in general led to a number of economic hardships, which in turn may alienate some from also going to the cinema. But as things are picking up, hopefully things will return to normal and rebound fully in 2030, hopefully in 2030. So let me know what you think concerning this report by PricewaterhouseCoopers and about the rebound of the cinema revenue, hopefully in 2030. Leave your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section below. And last but not least, something that I'm excited about is one of Africa's finest, CJ Obasi, who has done something for Locarno. Let's just read it because I think it's quite interesting to know. So, yeah, CJ Obasi. So for those, just a little brief. For those who may not know, CJ Obasi is one of Nigeria's, you know, A-list directors, if there's a term like that. And he did a film called Mami Wata that was put forward by the Nigeria Film Commission to enter into the best international category for the Oscars. And even though I think it wasn't selected in the final, I'm not so certain, but let me check and see. I'm not sure it was selected amongst the final films to participate in the Oscars. Let me quickly bring this up and see what it has to say. So let me check my Miwata. Yeah, so a 2020 film Oscars. I want to be sure, but regardless, it won several awards, and I mean, it was nominated for so many awards, so many. You can't imagine the number of awards it was nominated for in the year 2023. But let me see whether I was nominated. Okay, so yeah, so in a site, there's a site. Yeah, I'm trying to come up with, but I'm not really. But obviously, Nigeria submitted CJ Obasi's Sundance title Mami Water for Best International Feature Film, and um, as to whether I placed, okay, let me Best international, sorry, Best International Feature Film for 2023 nominations. Let me see. I want to be sure that whether I was nominated for that, whether I was nominated for that 2023. Unfortunately, okay, yeah. So unfortunately, it didn't place. Yeah, that was the year where you had All Quiet on the Western Front nominated. I think, yeah, so it didn't place for that. But for Africa or Nigeria as a whole, CJ Obasi's film Mami Wata, which won several awards in a number of international festivals and nominated for several, was presented. And that is CJ Obasi, the one who made it happen. And so in the Hollywood Reporter, particularly for Locarno, so that's CJ Obasi in your short. And for Locarno Film Festival, over the years, they have focused on the Caribbean and other places. But finally, they turned their spotlight onto Africa. And Sijo Obasi happened to be one of the people, of the directors who presented their film. And I think it won. It won at that festival. And hindsight later, or I mean, moving forward later, he was commissioned to do a project for them. So let's read what this article has to say. It says Nigeria's CJ Fiery Obasi created this spot and two more for Locarno Pros open doors. So the clip, The Colors That Bind Us, based on the age-old idea of unity in diversity, this time presented through cinema, will be shown before screenings of the first Open Doors edition with an African focus. So get ready for a fiery edition of Open Doors, the Locarno Film Festival's Locarno Pro-organized co-production platform and talent development program for filmmakers from regions where artistic expression is at risk. The 23rd edition, the first of a multi-year focus on the African continent, now has a first trailer created in collaboration with Nigerian director and writer CJ Fiery Obasi. It is one of three spots that he created and that will be presented before each open door screening and on the festival's social media channels. Obasi, also known as Fiery or the Fiery One, won the Bocalino d'Oro at Locarno 2021 for his film Juju Stories. His latest film, Mami Water 2023, premiered at Sundance and became Nigeria's official entry for the 2024 Academy Awards. I've been a long-time fan of the Locarno Film Festival and what they stand for within the art house cinema world, said Obasi. I thought it would be a cool idea to sort of usher in this new crop of African filmmakers to the glorious Locarno Film Festival with visuals that speak to the diversity of the talent, perspectives, and possibilities that the 42 eligible countries present. The filmmaker explained the idea behind the clip this way. The beautiful flags of the eligible countries are reflected on the faces of the people we see in the spot. I therefore title The Colors That Bind Us. It's the age-old idea of unity in diversity, this time presented through stories and through cinema. So that's a shot of, I think, behind the scenes when they were shooting it. So, and he said, and he highlighted in some of the spots images of Senegalese writer and director Osmani Subeni and Malian filmmaker Suleimani Sise are projected onto the actors' faces and bodies, almost as a way of saying they are here with us, they are watching us. The spot was filmed in Kigali, Rwanda, though we originally planned for one. I ended up being so inspired during the shoot that I filmed a couple of more ideas with the colors, with the actors and models. Obasi explained. When I edited the footage, I came up with three 30-second spots instead of just one. So Giona A. Nazaro, artistic director of the Locarno Film Festival, recalled, I first met CJ Obasi in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. He was presenting an early version of what would later become Mami Wata, which went on to win at Sundance. His Hello Rain had struck me like a lightning bolt, an authentic epiphany. We had the pleasure of featuring him in competition with the anthology film Juju Stories, and he later returned to Locarno as a jury member. Concluded Nazaro, his ability to weave ancestral elements onto a contemporary modernist gaze is unmatched. The way he reimagines African cinema of the past, merging it with the technologies of the present, is undoubtedly one of his most innovative and forward-looking contributions to contemporary filmmaking. So that's him in the shot with a colleague behind the scenes when he was shooting the spot. So the Open Doors trailers were directed and edited by Obasi under his fiery film moniker. They were produced by Oge Obasi with Imitana Production 7 as the line producer. Sound design is courtesy of the Fiery One, with music by Jean Abbé. Following a 3-year cycle dedicated to Latin America and the Caribbean, the Open Doors program now turns its attention to the African continent for the upcoming 4 editions, offering a platform for emerging voices through its projects, producers, and directors programs. Locarno organizers said Open Doors provides comprehensive training, mentoring, and networking opportunities alongside public screenings and events during Locarno Pro, which runs August 7th to 12th during the 78th edition of the Locarno Festival. So let's check out briefly what he shot. I don't know whether I can get a full screen. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get a full screen. So that is this one of the three 30 minute shots that he shot for Locarno. I hope that I'm not flagged for playing the tune in there. But I'm excited about this because it's our arts, our storytelling in Africa has previously, I mean, over the years, we had one or two people shining so bright and having the opportunity to be in some of these film festivals and more worldwide. But sometimes it's lost in the, most, we are not seen to be very formidable when it comes to storytelling, but I can guarantee you there are so many formidable filmmakers on the continent from way back till now. And I'm happy that CJ Obasi, the fiery one, is also being recognized for his talents and gifts. And I'm glad he's a jury member of Locarno, which gives Africa a voice on the international scene. And not just that, I'm happy also for Locarno for the open doors opportunity that they have given to African filmmakers to have the opportunity to tell their films on the level, our films or our stories in film on a level that would require more resources to make that possible. And I'm glad that that has been done here. And congratulations for the fiery one, CJ Obasi, for taking upon the opportunity to shoot this promotional video for Locarno. And there's a lot more this guy have been doing, but I'm glad that his Mame Wata project made such an impact in Nigeria and I would say Africa as a whole to have been presented. It's unfortunate it was not chosen among the five of the best international feature film to represent from one on the continent and by the continent and for the continent. So I'm hoping that someday soon, if not by CJ Obasi, someone from Africa will produce a film that will not just be selected or presented by the country to participate in the Oscars, but would actually be in the Oscars and win the Oscars for the best international feature. And that is what I hope for, and that is what I desire for Africa. It's about time that our film break barriers and cross, any. I mean, I wouldn't say the Oscars or the Academy is just the measuring stick for that, but I'm hoping that someday soon our films win all these coveted awards, but most importantly, also get into cinema halls all over the world and even be among the best, you know, top 100 or top 50 or even top 10 box office revenue, performing films, best performing films in the world. Hopefully, someday soon, that's going to be possible. So let me know your thoughts on this particular story about CJ Obasi directing three sports. He was commissioned to do one, but he did three to make that happen, and that's the excellent spirit with which you know CJ Obasi operates with, and I'm glad that he's done this for Locarno. Let me know your thoughts on what he has done for Locarno, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. But however, today being a Friday, I'm not going to leave you without which movies are performing or screening in the cinema hall. So let's go straight away into the first from Ghana, if you are in Ghana or in Nigeria, I'm sure as well, or South Africa, where there is Silverbird Cinemas. Get opportunity to go watch some movies. And obviously, one of the most anticipated films from Marvel is screening in the cinema, and I think it's already started. So at 10 a.m., Fantastic Four First Steps is screening at the Silver Bed. So from Friday to Sunday and throughout the entire week, the Fantastic Four, the first royal family of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, will be screening. The Smurfs as well will be screening as well, and you have Rihanna voicing one of the characters. So it says that Rihanna is a Smurfette. Smurfs also screening from today. Also, Sayara, which screened from last week, just as Smurfs as well, also will be screening. I Know What You Did Last Summer and a whole lot of other movies are still in the cinemas that you can go and check it out. We also have Freedom Way from the drama Nollywood and a whole lot more. So I'll leave the link in the comments in the description section below for you to go and check it out. But however, let's take a look at the film screening on the international scene and let's see what they have for us as well. So, okay, so let's check the Rotten Tomato website and see what they have for us. So, on the Rotten Tomato website, the new movie is releasing today as well, Fantastic Four, which has an audience rating of 93%. So, go check it out as well. You have Home, the Home, Oh Hi, oh, is it Oh Hi? Yeah, Oh Hi. Four letters of love. House on Eden. Bambi. The Reckoning. That's interesting. I think it will be in the same vein as the one that was done about the one of the, I think two or so of the Marvel. Winnie the Pooh or so that was released. I think it will still be in the same vein. A number of these properties are actually getting to the public domain for other filmmakers if they so choose to make a movie out of. So I'm sure Bambi is one of them as well. And also you have Osiris and then Shoshana and 2,000 meters to Andrivka and Star People all opening today. There are a lot more that is opening today as well. The Leash Road and then A-Frame and a whole lot more. So I'll leave all these links in the description section below so that you can go and take a look at some of the films that's going to be showing this weekend and then go into the cinema and watch a film. And let's return on Monday and talk more about these films. So thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the Film Mandate. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'd like you to leave your thoughts and comments as to how I can improve this particular, film blog, film vlog or podcast, so that I can serve you better. I'd like you to know your comments, anything at all, any constructive suggestions you can give me. It will be very much appreciated. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and I'll be coming your way again on Monday with some exciting episodes. However, look out, check out for any content that will be coming this weekend. It could be a trailer reaction or an editorial of any sort. So thank you so much, and I'll come your way next week Monday with another episode of the Film Mandate. My name is Papa O2, and I will see you soon.